Well, today we actually have a very exciting video. One, I want to put on one of the lip kit sides for the rear bumper to see how low we're sitting already. Two, we have all of the fittings to run the rest of the airlines for the bags. Three, if you can't tell by the tape already, my wiring harness is back from California. This is ready to go into the car. Huge shout out to iWire for wiring this wiring harness. They took a 2008 STI bulk harness and my 2001 Forester bulk harness and wired those together to a 2007 STI ECU, because the engine harness I'm using is a 2008 STI engine harness, but I'm using a 2007 STI ECU because it's a lot to explain why I can't use a 2008 STI ECU. However, they wired this whole thing so that way it'll plug into the 08 STI engine harness, plug into my car, my factory, everything inside the car, like factory, and work off of a 2007 STI ECU, which I can tune from a cob access port that I have. It's mind-blowing that they can do this. But today, the biggest thing is we're going to work on putting this back in the car. That way we can get the interior back in the car, because it's still all in the back seat. Dash is there, dash bar there, heater core box there. Before we start putting the harness in, we need to finish running the airlines for the front bags, because these run underneath the dash and through the firewall. So we're going to finish running the front lines to the back of the car, and then we're going to put the dash in, because it'll just be easier to not have to mess with running the lines with the dash in. We'll just get this done real quick with the dash out, then we'll start working on getting everything put back together, put the wiring harness in. Okay, I'm going to go through a brief explanation of how we're running all of the management and all the lines. First, we have these, which are triple T quick disconnects for the hoses, because these two hoses, the front two bags, connect together, and then they need to go to the switch underneath the dash, and then from the switch you tee off to the gauge, and then from the switch you go to the tank. And that's how you do the front. You do the same thing with the rear. You have the rear come together, tee off, go to the switch, tee off, go to the gauge, and then from the switch back to the tank. We needed a couple of straight disconnects for the tank to run lines. These are for running the line to the back of the gauges, because the back of the gauge is male, so I needed a female adapter to quick disconnect to the gauge. Anyways, let's get that done real quick, because that's probably not why you're watching this episode. So, okay, well, that's pretty much it right now. We have the quick T disconnect swapped over to here. Another T quick disconnect. This one goes to the gauge that's going to be on the A-pillar to read the front bag pressure. And then the end of this line goes into the back of the one switch that runs the front bags. And then we'll have a line coming out of the other port on the switch that runs the front bags. And that line will go all the way back to the tank. Now that we're good with that, it'll make it a little easier once done installing the dash to run the rest of the lines through the car. We're now going to start working on putting the wiring harness back in the car with the dash, and everything's got to go back in. Now the only issue is they sent me a link to a YouTube video that they have that I need to watch step by step to put this harness back in the car. And obviously, if I'm watching a YouTube video on how to do it, I can't film it on a time lapse or anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch it with some AirPods or whatever, so I can go step by step and not screw anything up while putting this all back together. But I'm going to periodically bring you guys back and give you little updates of how the progress I've made is and how it's been. So we're going to get started with that. Okay, so far we have the harness kind of laid in here. We have the ECU bolted up underneath the floorboard. We have a few plugs in just as placeholders to kind of remember where everything kind of lays out. And then we have all of the engine plugs and everything in the engine bay. As you can see over here, this is a complete rat's nest of crap to do. So I'm gonna keep watching the video and see where I'm supposed to go from here. So I finished the video, and the video only showed how to do all the engine plugs and the transmission plugs, which, as you probably notice, I'm kind of lacking in the engine department currently, because I don't have one. So I have everything fed through the firewall, and we're just going to kind of leave this how it is. Now, in the interior, I'm just going to start going through plug by plug and seeing if I can find its match, because all of these are like color coded. You see I got one there. I've got a couple in, like I got one down there, going there. So we're just going to start on the passenger side and start plugging stuff in and just working our way over. Cues, satisfying connector clip noises. It's about a week later. I didn't keep going on that because I didn't really have too much time, and I was doing it alone. And Chandler, who's the one that helped me out taking all the wiring harness off, he's going to come help us put it back in today, because he's going to remember more than I do, because he worked on it more than I did. But we did just get the downpipe, so I'm just mocking up the downpipe right now to see how it fits. Gosh, the sun being behind me really messes with shadows. I'm sorry. It looks like we're gonna be able to fit it. Obviously, it's just kind of set down there. I was told they might need to notch the subframe, but it goes behind the axle really well. This is just a Bug-Eye WRX downpipe, so it looks like that's gonna actually fit up quite nice. Same thing for today. I'm gonna go watch, before Chandler gets here, I'm gonna start on this, but I'm gonna go watch the video that we watched to take this all out. I'm gonna go like watch it in reverse. I'm gonna go to the end and start rewinding back to see how everything goes back in. That way I can start putting this all back together. But because of that, and without Chandler here, without an extra phone, I can't film that until he gets here. I'm gonna have to be watching the video on the phone that I'm filming with. So I'll just give you guys periodic updates of progress that I make. A little update, we have the heater core box back through the dash. We have some of that wired in. We have the starting to run the airbag harness across. Like I said, I'm just going in reverse on that video and just putting stuff on that they're taking off. As I was doing this, I realized that the way I had the bag airlines running isn't gonna work because they're all gonna be covered behind the heater core box and the AC box behind the dash, and that would be impossible to get to if somehow the lines cracked or broke or something and I lost air. Now doing is I decided to actually half them inside the engine bay right in the middle. That way they get same amount of air both ways, and then we're teeing off in the middle and running this one through the firewall on the easy side and into the dash on the side of the switches. So it'll be a lot easier. So if for some reason like this line breaks and I lose air in this bag, this line's just right here in the engine bay. Perfect. And then we have the teed off line running over, back behind the brake booster and underneath the brake booster through the firewall where it's not going to see any heat and it's going to be a-okay. But now I'm going to get back to it, so I'll update you guys in a minute. Guys, now you can actually see that we're starting to get somewhere. We actually have the dash bar. We're just putting the dash bar back in right now. Throwing all the nuts and bolts on both sides. I really only have the passenger side done right now because there was this little bracket I had to figure out where it went. But I'm just showing you guys we're actually making some really good progress. It's been a while now. We got the fuse box in. Still have some plugs that I have no idea where any of these plugs go. And there's some plugs, there's some plugs down here, like this plug, I don't know. Just found out that this plug is for the electronic throttle, which means I have to buy a 2008 STI gas pedal assembly. So I just ordered one of those. That way I can have a gas pedal because it's no longer a cable-driven gas pedal. Pretty much everything's in before the big piece of the dash, the top piece of the dash comes in. So I'm going to go through the video one more time and see if I'm missing anything before putting the dash in, and then we'll get to that next.
Yeah, dude, this doesn't make any sense. Because all of this has to go in too, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's
What?
supposed to snow on Monday.
The dash goes in first. I'm doing it backwards. So now we got to put the dash in, and then the underside.
No, what I'm saying is that's the
center
very,
console.
very, very first thing it had me take out.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
Look.
I know. An absolute buffoon.
Do you want to be passenger side or driver's side? You want me to feed it through to you, or do you want you to feed it through to me?
Through to me, Sonny.
Oh yeah. You remember, so those green plugs on top of the steering column?
Yeah.
Those are for the cluster. So make sure you feed those through through this big hole where the cluster goes.
Wait.
I don't exactly know how this goes in.
Let me put your steering wheel out real quick so that I can actually do shit that's accurate.
He said it's running, it starts, it drives. Yep. It gets me from point A to point B.
Just put it in your trunk, like under everything. You just get a 4-gallon tank.
We were gonna run the airlines that need to go to the triple gauge pod that's gonna be on the A-pillar. So you already have one airline up here for the front bags, but the fittings I bought for the gauges don't fit for the push to connect for the bags. So now I need to buy more fittings for that, and I don't want to put all of the bottom dash on because I still have to route 2 more lines up through the dash and up here, and it'll just be way easier if I don't have this in. So a huge shout out to Chandler for coming and helping. And yeah, that's where we're gonna leave it off. I'm gonna take the Outback bumper that was on the Forester home because I'm gonna try and get my fiberglass Hawkeye front splitter to fit on that thing. And yeah, we'll see you next time, I guess. Made a lot of progress today. It might not look like much, but you have no idea how much progress this was, so that's awesome.
All of this was not in the car.
Yeah, none of this was
The
existent.
steering wheel was being held up by a jack.
It was. So the fact that this is held...
itself up now.
Exactly. All right, well, goodbye. Like my holding parts in the engine bay setup. Say bye, Chan.
Bye.